Earlier today, multiple Democrat governors made a desperate plea for Congress and the White House to essentially bail them out as the Biden administration's border crisis overwhelms their sanctuary cities. Now, this comes as Senate negotiations continue for the border security legislation that we've been talking about. However, a chance of a vote to fix the border crisis happening this week seems to be slipping away. What issues have led to these delays? Well, and here's a bigger question. If they can get something, will House Republicans support it? Joining me now to discuss this and much more, Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, who practiced medicine for more than 25 years. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee and the Senate Committee on Health, Labor, and Pensions. Dr. Marshall, welcome back to the program.
Tony, it's great to be with you tonight. We got some incredible topics we need to visit with you and your listeners.
Well, let's jump right into this. The senators negotiating a possible agreement have kept a pretty tight lid on the information regarding the provisions that would secure our southern border. What can you tell us?
Well, I think we're kind of treading water right now. That we are seeing the main issue is parole. Let me talk about parole just for a second. President Obama paroled 5,000 people per year. Joe Biden is paroling 700,000 people per year. It's this get out of jail free card that even though you're not qualified to come in this country, I'm just going to ignore the law. The law says to do this one person at a time, but Joe Biden is doing it tens of thousands of people at a time. So I think what my advice is that we shouldn't agree to anything until we agree to everything. The challenge is this may be a once in a generation opportunity to get some policy changes. I just want to remind your listeners that even if we had President Trump back in office, if we have 53 Republican senators, if we have a majority on the House, the Democrats will vote against this in the Senate. And it would take 60 votes in the Senate to change any policy. So I'm trying to be patient. I'm waiting to read the whole bill, but I'm really concerned about this parole aspect of the legislation that we've been educated about.
As you said, this is probably a once, I wouldn't say a once in a lifetime, but it's rare that you have the type of leverage that you currently have because the Biden administration and Democrats want this additional funding for Ukraine. In fact, quoting from the Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, he says, the future of the war in Ukraine hangs in the balance. The security of our Western democracy hangs in the balance. Now, I tell you, if he were so concerned about democracy and the future of it, I think the first place he should start is the southern border. But anything that they embrace so wholeheartedly as this war in Ukraine, I'm going to be very candid, Senator, it makes me question their motives.
Right. And one of my big concerns here is that I don't negotiate with people that don't share the same goals that I do. I will sit down and have a cup of coffee with you as long as we have the same goals in mind. My goal is to secure our southern border. It's my goal. It's my priority. For 3 months, I've talked about this needs to be the number one priority for America is to secure our own border. But Joe Biden's priority is to get as many people as he can across the finish line so they can vote for in the future. And at the same time, their other priority is to fund Ukraine. We could talk about Ukraine. We've talked about that before. But my priority is to secure the border right now. But we're using this as leverage, the Ukraine funding as leverage. So we'll see where this ends up.
Right. I agree with you. I've used this illustration before, but it's just like when you're flying on an airplane. If the oxygen decreases and the mask fall down, put your own mask on first, then help someone else. And I think that's the same thing with our border. We have to secure our own country, our own future before we can help anyone else.
Yeah, it is that simple. And as we talk about this campaign unwinding, we had Joe Biden. He's running on, as you said, abortion, and he's running on that Donald Trump is the threat to democracy. I want to remind your listeners that Joe Biden is the threat to democracy. When we have an open border, when we have basically no southern border, we're not a sovereign nation anymore. When we have a president that doesn't believe in law and order, when he believes in cashless bail, when he believes in defunding the police, and really just a lack of respect for the law, not applying the law equally, then that's an attack on our democracy. And then lastly is his attack on our constitutional rights. whether it's the Second Amendment, the freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We don't have a democracy, we don't have a republic if we have a president that doesn't maintain our borders, respect the law, and respect our constitutional rights. He's the threat to democracy.
I mean, and you lay that out in a piece that you've written. In fact, folks, you can find it at TonyPerkins.com. It's listed under the episode resources. The president, as you made reference, he's out campaigning. In fact, not just him, the vice president. This is she's the abortion czar. She's out. Secretary Becerra, he's out campaigning on abortion, as if this were the number one issue that Americans care about. And let me just give a little context for our viewers and listeners. You have delivered, as a doctor, over 5,000 babies. You know a little bit about babies. You know a little bit about health care. Abortion is not health care.
Yeah, it's that simple. And I just got to add this emphasize this point that if an attack on the sanctity of life is an attack on this republic as well in so many ways. And from the moment this president took office, appointing Secretary Becerra, his goal was to hand out abortion pills over the counter, even without a doctor ever examining them. And what I can bring for context, as a person that never prescribed an abortion pill, but had to take care of people having complications from them. It's what they don't tell people that's going to happen when these young ladies take these abortion pills, that they might bleed and cramp for 3 hours. They may bleed and cramp for 3 days. And no one's there to hold their hand through this. It's really, it's just sad. But you're right. Abortion care is not part of health care, in my opinion, in your opinion, that we all believe we're fearfully and wonderfully made. The joy of my life to celebrate each one of those 5,000 births, and just so proud to be representing people and fighting for life up here in Washington, D.C. now.
And yesterday I had the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina on. We were discussing this very thing on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, that infamous court case, that, we're about protecting the unborn. And that's not anything that the Republicans should back away from. You certainly haven't. And we need to see more out there championing the well-being of unborn children and their mothers. Final word.
Well, it was great to be at March for Life last week as well, to be with hundreds of kids from Kansas up here marching for life, standing for life. And I love their motto this year, which is with every woman, for every baby. And just want to know, moms out there, that Christian people like you and me, our friends back home, that we're going to stand beside you during the pregnancy, after the pregnancy. You're welcome in our family.